Hip politics, baby.
We're living in the information age. I believe that, answers, solutions, different ideologies, different perspectives at your fingertips. What you choose to enlighten yourself with, depends on what you have been exposed to. And I think that is also a key point when you're talking about the things, the plight or the things that could improve the lives of black men and black people in general living below the line. And that is education, employment, and experiences. If you have proper education, you have proper employment, and you being exposed and enlightened to different experiences where you can evolve as a human being, I think that we'll find the answers to a lot of our problems within those three sectors.
Andrew, do you think black men are being forgotten about in politics?
So first of all, hello everybody. I feel like we jumped down. I know y'all have been here all day, and I haven't had the opportunity to be out here very much since my race for governor of Florida. But for those of you all who cheered us on and prayed for us and contributed and posted about it and brought attention to the race, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for what you did. It's a matter of moving the ball forward, and I began answering this question by reflecting on the race for governor, because I can't tell you the amount of times that we would go into rooms and my team was surprised by the number of black men of all ages who were showing up in these spaces that previously were not. A good deal of that had to do with the fact that people like Tip and Charlemagne the God lifted up our race in the primary when most people weren't paying any attention to it. So I would go to a drive-through, and everybody in the drive-through looking out the window like, I heard you on Breakfast Club, this morning. And what I think that broke through is that we started to show up in mediums where politics hadn't traditionally been discussed. Are black men forgotten? No, they are a major part of a public policy agenda. However, we rarely ever call out the implications that public policy has directly on black men. And so if you don't hear it named, then it's absolutely true that the scar tissue can build up that maybe people don't respect you, don't value you. I remember doing a post about the role that black women played in returning Democrats to power in 2018 and also in the 2016 election. Black women were the most reliable demographic for Hillary Clinton. But second to that were black men. And so when I elevated the fact that black women, a bunch of brothers spoke up and were like, yeah, but we were right behind. And so in society, we often don't do, I think, our due just in recognizing the contributions, the voting power contributions that black men make in the outcome of these elections. And so to that end, we all have a lot of work to do. One, elevating the issues and naming the implications that black men are disproportionately affected by some of these things. But also when giving credit, also give credit to the fact that we showed up more reliably for Hillary Clinton than white women. In fact, they didn't show up for her. 54% of the time.
Now, if I may say, the reason why it may feel like, the black male vote has been forgotten, maybe it's because so many of us have been murdered, disenfranchised, and became disengaged, and essentially been emasculated by the agenda of the government on both parties. So, when you look at the war on drugs and the effects of that, when you look at the incentivization of black women getting black men out of their homes so they can receive Section 8 and welfare, that's why they seem forgotten, because there is an attempt or an agenda to remove us out of the picture. But through the black woman, which is our God-given natural partner, we will never be forgotten because we are together. And I don't want to get to separate us as though, it's either the black man or the black woman. We are black together. We have the same issue. And so we gonna get through this together as we always have.
So I'm gonna get to that because I'm gonna pick up on that because that gets to a myth, a line of thinking that's out there about black men. There's a number that goes around that 70% of black children are fatherless. But when you pull apart and look at the numbers, the Centers for Disease Control tells us that most black fathers actually live with their children. 2.5 million black fathers live with their children, 1.7 million don't. And when you look at why the 1.7 million don't, what comes up is prison, death. They may have multiple moms, so you live with one child, and maybe there are one or two other children who are with another mother, so you don't live with them. And of course, there are people who just tap out of the system and don't want to play. But the issues that come up about why those choices get made, they say for black men, are economics, the criminal justice system, we talked about prison, and then in that Cory Booker thing, you know what issue that came up? Daycare. So we don't think about daycare being an issue for black men, but if you're paying for daycare, that's an issue. So I guess my question is, let's talk about economics and aspiration. And I'll ask you, I'll start here. Why do you think most people sell drugs? Obviously, most people sell drugs. Of the people who sell drugs, most people who sell drugs. Why do you think they do?
Jamal.
I don't think that was supposed to be the question.
To be honest with you, speaking from my own personal experience, it was the closest, most formidable thing available. You could step out of your house, look left, look right, and there was opportunity. And now, while we're talking about
an opportunity for what?
Opportunity to fill the gap of poverty that existed within the household. You know what I'm saying? You got so much in bills and so much coming in from welfare and so on and so on, and it doesn't suit the need to carry throughout the month. So how you gonna fill that gap? And I've always been, kind of like economically. I've been savvy since 4th grade when I was selling candy. And so it was always about earning this much money so I could have enough to do what I needed to do for me and my mama. And then when I was introduced to the drug trade, to be honest with you, I switched up my enterprise because the profit margins were greater. That was a business decision. But see, this is the thing. Whenever we start talking about selling drugs and breaking the law and doing things outside of the law to survive, we always go straight to people of color. However, let's take it back to prohibition and let me show you how this is different.
Talk about it, Tip.
This complexion for the connection. See, when we go back to prohibition, when alcohol was illegal, white people saw fit to sell it illegally.
That's right.
Okay, and they fought with the government back and forth, made billions of dollars, created empires for themselves, and all kinds of institutions that came from it. And when it became legal, those who were most successful at bootlegging became alcohol distributors when it became legal. However, us, when we've been selling drugs all our life and we paid the price and the penalty, when marijuana becomes legal, we're the ones left out of the party and away from the table. There were so many industries that came from prohibition. You got NASCAR. NASCAR came from people running from the police, driving illegal bootleg liquor from this town to the next town, and the ones that were more successful at it, they turned that into NASCAR. There was an industry created. And that was for the people who experienced it, for the people who knew that this should be legal even when it was illegal, and did all the lobbying, and when it became legal, they were included. That's not the case for us. Now, why is that is the question.
Right. So here's my follow up with where I'm going is I think people go to college for the same reason. People go to college to make money. People go into the drug trade to make money. I grew up in a neighborhood where that happened every day. The question, though, I want to ask is anybody who is running for office, we got to keep this nonpartisan, do Democrats and the Republicans talk to African American men about how it is they get to make money in America and take care of their families, and is that getting in the way of their participation?
Well, I see you didn't ask me to draw a question. I'm not making news here today anyway. So.
You can feel free to get
No, but I wanted to connect what T.I. said was so profound, and it's important to connect those comments back to politics. So, Kim Fox in Chicago.
Woo!
Tish James in New York.
Woo!
Aramis Ayala down in Florida, the only black female prosecutor, state's attorney in the entire state of Florida. Sister in Baltimore.
Marilyn Mosby.
In Baltimore. We are seeing progressive black, and it's not exclusively black prosecutors, but who are being elected and are attempting to redress this issue that T.I. is raising, which is simply the system has made so much money and has built the prison industrial complex largely off of black people being locked up, overwhelmingly for low-level drug charges.
Nonviolent.
Right? Nonviolent crimes. And the curing of that, right? Now that we've moved toward legalization, a state like mine, we put a cap on how many licenses we can issue. Not a single one of those licenses has gone to an African American. The licenses have been capped, and we have something called vertical integration, which means the people who are doing the growing then establish direct relationship to the distributorship, similar to alcohol. This is no difference.
Absolutely.
And so the question has to be asked of politicians: who is going to make it right in today's political day and age? Now that marijuana is being legalized, both recreationally across the country and decriminalized in other places around the country, first thing we need to do, and this is where these prosecutors are coming in, is they ought to be wiping the criminal history slates of these individuals clean. If it's now legal and by and large white people are making profit off of it now, then why does the criminal violation continue to follow that man or woman of color after they've been absolved of it and now it's profit making? And then what does the movement look like around the country to ensure either in the licensing process, if we do end up with vertical integration, and through the distributorship process, that they, at the local level, laws be adopted that sets and establishes quotas for how many licenses goes to men of color, how many licenses goes to the communities that have been adversely affected by the public policy that led us down this road in the first place. And so, do I hear that level of conversation at the presidential level? No. But I called out those individual lawmakers because these are people who run for office. How do we get brothers and sisters in the neighborhood to connect righting this wrong of over-prosecution, over-representation of black men and women, largely on drugs, and the criminal justice system, now to the economic benefit that has emerged, by and large, in mainstream politics, to give them now an economic leg up. I would also just quickly, say on the motivation for selling drugs, another poignant piece. While I didn't, I am one of 7 kids, and I'm the 5th of 7 kids, all boys and 1 girl, my baby sister. All 4 of my older brothers have criminal background history. My second oldest brother spent 15 years in jail for drug sales and trafficking by carrying drugs from Florida into Georgia and from Georgia back into Florida. My mother, I'm fully aware, probably knew my brother was selling drugs all the way through because he would break her off to help her pay the light bill or to put extra groceries in the house so that her 7-headed kids could eat. But this same brother is the same brother who, when I went off to Florida A&M University, was the one who took me to Target and outfitted my entire dorm room with a refrigerator and a microwave and sheets and covers and all those things that you needed. Now, I then became the first of my siblings to graduate from high school, the first to graduate from college, and my example allowed for my little brother and little sister who came after me to do the same thing. And in 2 months, we will all be in New York celebrating my sister graduation from law school. So I tell that story to simply co-sign the motivations that exist in so many households, not just to make ends meet, but to also disrupt intergenerational poverty. Now, he didn't realize that what he was, sure he knew it was wrong, but the ends justified the means in many ways because we had food on the table. The lights didn't get cut off, at least not as frequently. His brother got to go to college. And because of that, my little brother and my little sister came after me, and they're going higher, right? The idea that each rung goes higher and higher. And so that doesn't excuse anything, but this is much more complex than people just going out there trying to break the law, do something different, do something bad.
It's justified to me. Can I ask you a question, sir?
The moderator, I guess.
What is entrapment? What's the legal definition of entrapment?
We got any lawyers here? Somebody want to answer?
Anybody from legal? Can anybody from legal tell me what the legal definition is for entrapment? Okay, when the government what? Induces you to commit a crime and then imprison you for that crime, correct? Okay, now with the Iran-Contra scandal, America has been proven and even admitted to trading weapons for drugs with Nicaragua under the Reagan administration, taking those drugs and infesting them into our communities, and then waging a war on drugs, changing the mandatory minimums, and even coming up with crack laws that would charge you 100 to 1 for the amount of crack versus the amount of powder. Okay, now they put the drugs in the community. They import it from Nicaragua. But we are held accountable for the distribution of it. Those are the questions we need to be asking. How come this is not entrapment on a federal level for everybody who has crack cocaine and cocaine offenses during the war on drugs? Why aren't those questions being answered?
So do you ask those questions when politicians come to you and ask you for your support?
I mean, I do. They all, So I figured, you know what I'm saying, let's get down to some questions that you can answer. You know what I'm saying? And I think that...
But would you withhold your support from somebody who couldn't answer those questions?
I mean, it depends on the rest of their reputation. It depends on, you know what I mean? Like you got somebody like Bloomberg, I can't go with that. I just can't go with that. I don't care what party you represent. I don't care who you, I can't rock with you. You know what I'm saying? I done seen in your character, in your decisions, and in your actions that you are totally against our people, our culture, our generation, and our communities. I can't roll with it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, let's take it back.
Well, I will validate that the brother does hate when seeking his support. And he wasn't the only one. I remember when my good friend, my sister Angela Rye, connected me with Diddy. I mean, we spent, maybe 30 minutes on the phone, and he was going hook, line, and sinker through the issues. And his point was, I've been burned before by getting behind people who got elected and didn't do anything to address the things that I cared about.
And so we talked about.
I mean, all the stuff we're talking about. I mean, all the stuff that he ain't asking about drug selling, but but everything through the stream. And I will tell you a funny story when it ended. Don't tell them I said, "Are we being recorded? We are."
Always. The eye in the sky watches over us all.
There it is. He probably wouldn't be mad about this, but I think I took this call right before I was going on Rachel Maddow, so there was an end time to how long we could have this conversation. I had no idea it would go as long as it did.
Did he agree to your end time? Or?
No. I mean, I didn't tell him. I didn't want to. I was honored to be on the phone with him. I'm certainly not going to tell him I got to run. But at the end, and it just at the nick of time, he was like, "All right, brother, you got Diddy. we popping bottles. So I got up and my staff, who is, it's a more little diverse staff, asked me, how did the call go? And I'm rushing in, putting the IV, thing in my ear. I said, well, he said we got Diddy, we popping bottles. I don't know what.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
So what does it mean? Is it gonna come? Is it gonna? I don't know, y'all. We'll have to deal with this later.
So I want to circle this up a little bit. I'm going to take it back to Atlanta.
Sure.
So I went to Morehouse. When I was 19, got picked up with 3 of my friends in a car outside of a weed house. They found a gun in the backseat of the car. Took us all to jail. When we showed up in the court weeks later, I had a black judge who sat there and said, "Is somebody from Atlanta Police Department going to explain to me how 4 people carry 1 weapon?" Wow. The person whose gun it was admitted that it was his. He had a license on it, but not a permit to carry it. He had to deal with that. And 3 of us got to leave.
Right.
Flash forward a year and a half later, I went to work for Bill Clinton. Secret Service agent tapped me on the shoulder and was talking about my gun charge. Wow. Ultimately, it gets taken out because a black Secret Service agent was the one who was there and said, I explained the story. He said, don't worry, I'm not going to let them get you. So my question is,
Ain't this some shit? Yeah.
we have people like Kamala Harris, who was here earlier, who ran for president as a prosecutor. You named a bunch of prosecutors. One of the things held against her was being an officer of the court, where she did put people in jail. I think she would also argue she tried to keep people out of jail. How is it that we evaluate these African Americans who are inside of the criminal justice system? And do we just hold them responsible for the times that they put people in jail? Or do we try to find some solace in a record of how they work with the community, perhaps people who were in trouble?
I think that fundamental principles are in question. I think, why are you putting people in jail? What is the basis of, the laws that you're passing and the line you push? And not just for black people, for any people. You know what I mean? I think we have to hold everybody accountable for their actions and what they do for the betterment or the detriment of our society. And don't get me wrong. When some people, you break the law, you gotta go to jail. You know what I'm saying? It's just, ain't nowhere around it. You know what I'm saying? Some people longer than others, some people shorter than others, but that's just a part of the society we live in. You know what I'm saying? But I think that the intent behind it, is there a hidden agenda to lock up one particular age group, one particular race, one particular type of people? If you find that, I think, now, like for instance, if she has a thing against gun violence because personally she has a history where gun violence affected her family, so she's just tough on gun violence across the board, well, that's one thing. Well, or if you're just a part of a hidden agenda for someone who's pulling a string and telling you lock up all the black boys with guns, then it's different.